Hello there, Michelle from Pretty in Paint Parties here. I'm going to be your instructor for painting your bag that you just got, and I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for purchasing your box. We put a lot of hard work into it because we just can't serve everyone with our mobile paint parties, and this is our chance to bring the paint party to you, but shipped right to your door. Also, a portion of every box goes to our partner Stand Up to Cancer, so we want to thank you for your support in that as well. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple of basics and make sure you have everything set up before we're ready to go. Number one, you want to make sure you have your brushes out, and I just want to tell you a little bit about brush care. In between steps, if you want to set your brush aside and walk away and let something dry, make sure you rinse your brushes out really good and get all the paint out of it. You don't want to leave the paint on the brushes, otherwise it will dry on the bristles and cause them to crack and it will damage the brush. Also, when you're rinsing out your brushes, make sure you don't jam it on the bottom of the cup when you're swishing it around. You want to make sure your bristles stay nice and straight. Jamming it will damage them and have them spread. Also, don't leave your brushes in the water for too long. It could also damage the brush over time. So it's really great. Those are great tips if you want to continue using your brushes for other projects that you want to have, which we hope we inspire you to paint some more. One other thing about the paint water, make sure you don't drink it. We've had this happen at parties. It doesn't taste good. Don't worry if you swallow it, it's non-toxic, but we just say, have fun, don't drink the paint water. But more importantly, don't put your brush in your drink. It's not good to waste. Now, also before we get started, make sure you have some kind of surface cover just in case you get paint on something. You should have a paper towel to wipe your brushes on. And if you don't have an apron like I'm wearing now or something that came in your box, put on some clothes that you don't mind getting paint on, just in case. Just in case you drink a little too much and you want to have a paint fight. But the paint will come off your hands and skin, but not so much your clothes, or at least go and try to wash them right away. Okay, so I hope you're excited to get started. I'm excited to instruct you. If you have any questions at any time, we are here to help. So make sure you go in your box and there should be an email address on the card for any support you may need there. Otherwise, call or text us. Okay, how's that for service? We want to be able to help you right on the spot. Our number is 856-432-4474, and we're going to be very happy to help you with whatever you need. Okay, so have fun painting your bag. I can't wait to see you in the instructional video, and also when you are done, if you want to share what you've created, because we love seeing the final results. Usually we could take a big group shot at the end of a party at one of our parties and see how everyone interpreted what we taught them, but we can't do that here. So make sure you tag us at Pretty in Paint Parties on Instagram, and we look forward to seeing your finished masterpiece. Hello there. We are going to now paint your tote bag. You should have gotten a nice inspiration sheet in your box. You can choose one of these to paint or totally have fun and paint whatever you want. You definitely have the colors you need to make any of these designs. I'm going to go ahead and paint this one down here, this love with the blue and the flowers, because I know a lot of people have trouble with flowers, and I could take you step by step through how to make different types of flowers. If you want to do something more intricate like this one here, you may want to go get a ruler. That's how you get those straight lines on this one. And also, if you decided you wanted to do the beach, what I recommend is you do light blue on top, regular blue here in the middle, and slowly add some white as you work your way down to just about here. Then you want to do the sand, and then you take white paint and you just kind of stipple your white paint in there. So, setting this aside, you should have your paint all laid out and get your brushes out. You may have something like this. You may even have just a foam brush, which works just as well. But I'm going to use my two brushes today. What you want to do first is the shape that's already traced on your bag. You want to paint white, especially if you have a darker bag. I'm doing it on our tan bag, but we do have a black bag available. If you were to go to our website, which there will be a link to that as well. if you decide you wanted to get a black bag and paint the love shape on it. But I'm going to go ahead and paint the love shape white first. It's just a primer. You could just put color on here, but if you were to do a light color such as yellow, you're probably going to have to put quite a few coats on there to have it show up. So I recommend painting it in white first, and it'll just be a nice base. So you don't have to wet your brush at all. You could just dip your paint right into the white. And I'm just going to start at the top. With this square brush, you can actually get really close to the edge here and get a nice, clean edge. And I suggest that you paint in one direction. You know, either up and down or left to right, just to keep the brush strokes even. If you go over here, what's great about these brushes is that it's exactly the same width as the font over here. So you could just go to the corner here, press your brush in, and just drag it across. Okay, and then you're just going to paint the whole thing white. Okay, now that you painted your love shape white, it's really up to you what you want to do now. You can set it aside and let it dry for a few minutes. You can put it down, walk away, do this at your own leisure, and come back. If you do decide to do that, make sure you cover up the other paints or leave them in their containers. Otherwise, they're going to dry, and you don't want that to happen, of course. But the next step, I'm going to rinse off my square brush real quick. Just kind of swish it around, paint the bottom of the cup to get the excess paint off. Wipe it off on your paper towel. There we go, nice and clean. Now I'm going to go with blue. You want to paint the L, the V, and the E all in blue. We're going to save the O for last because it's a light blue, and we're going to have to mix that with white later on, but I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, just dip your brush in the blue. Start wherever you want. I'm a righty. I like to start at the top here. And you're going to paint your shape blue. Now the thing with this is if you think this is too dark, you may want to start doing this blue right away, right after you paint this white. This way it mixes in a little bit, because if you add a tiny bit of white to the blue, it gets lighter. It's actually a really nice blue. But I want to go a little darker here, so I'm going to do straight blue. And if you notice on your inspiration sheet, we're going to add some streaks of white later, so that's why you want to have it all blue. So go ahead and paint your L, your V, and your E in blue. Now as I'm finishing up painting this all blue, I realize it does look a little dark. So I took a little bit of white paint and I started to mix it in. And what's great about this is you get like these dark edges, and then you have your lighter blue on the inside. So as you can see, I put a little bit of white on my blue over here on the E, and now I'm just painting it in. So I have my dark edges, and the inside is a lighter blue. I'm gonna add a little bit over here too. And the great thing about this is if you add too much white, you could just go right back over with the blue, maybe let it dry for a few minutes, and then go back in with the blue to make it a little bit darker. I'm just adding some white in to make it lighter. That looks really cool. Hope you're loving your painting so far. As you can see, I have a little bit of the E left. And feel free to rotate your bag around to what you're comfortable with. I had mine upside down earlier. Just getting these edges here. And you'll notice that I have a lot of paint on my brush. One of the big mistakes I see people do is they don't put enough paint on their brush, and so they get these, rough edges where you see the canvas from underneath. No, you want to really use the paint, have a nice coverage, so you can have a nice solid L, V, and E and O. It'll show up nice and crisp on your bag. Yeah, and then relax, just take your time with it. Okay, now that I filled this all in, at this point, especially with your L, V, and E, you really shouldn't see any pencil marks. You also want to have painted over all the white as well. So now it should just be a lovely blue, and we're ready to add our highlights into our letters. You don't have to rinse off your brush for this. I mean, mine looks a little chunky, so I'll probably just take my paper towel, just wipe off the excess. There we go. Now I'm going to take just white, and I'm just going to use the tip of my brush here. I'm going to start with the L, and I'm going to add streaks of white into it. Now again, the great thing about this is if you use too much white, just wait a couple minutes and go right back over it with, the blue to make it darker. And then as you can see, it blends in. You can even go up this way a little bit. Just make it stand out a little bit more. You'll notice where the L and the V meet, you want to make sure you have that separation with the letters. That's where you want to define those. I have some people that think that this whole thing is the letter V, and it's not. Part of it's the L. Now I got the V here. Do a little bit of the top part. As you can see, I'm adding a little bit white at a time. This way I don't have to go back and paint it over with blue. And it's up to you if you want to, you could leave this dark. I think I'm going to add just like a little streak of white. That's up to you. I missed this part of the L here. Just going to add a little streak there. And what's great about adding the white in is it defines where the letters are. It's one reason to do it. Also makes it look 3D. Okay, I'm going to do the E. Again, the E, you'll notice this line's up here. The E actually starts right here. Take that in. And highlight here. Over here too. And in the middle. Do want to leave some dark spots. Give it a little definition. There we go. Okay. Alright, I like that a lot. Go ahead and rinse off your brush again. You're going to swish it around the bottom of the cup. Don't have to worry about getting all of it off. We're still using the same color. Wipe it on your paper towel. Now what you want to do is take the blue and mix some into the white. This blue goes a long way, so make sure you add a little bit at a time. Go ahead and mix it all together. And it doesn't really, I'm not looking for any particular color. Just mix a color until you get the, the tint that you like. I think that one looks nice. But as you can see, a little bit of that blue goes a long way. And if you need to, add a little bit more white paint. So I think I'm happy with this color. Still using the same brush. Now I'm going to paint my O in. See how much lighter that is? And that's the other thing. If you're not sure if you like the color you mixed, test it real quick. You can always make it lighter or even make it a little darker. So now I'm going to fill in the rest of my O over here. And when I'm done, I'm going to let it dry for a few minutes because the next step, we're going to add our flowers in. And we want to make sure the O especially is dry enough so that the pink shows up. Okay, now that I colored in my O, I'm going to wait for this to dry for a few minutes. And you're going to want to do that because when we put the flowers on here, we don't want the red to mix in with the blue because it'll start to make purple. Unless you're going for purple, and then that's totally fine. But next subject is I want to talk about flowers. Now, the ones that are on this bag are pretty abstract, and that's how I'm going to show you how to do it. But if you want to get a little more fancy, I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to paint flowers. I'm actually going to use my tablecloth for this, and it's actually a great way to practice. If you want to just grab your skinny brush here, you can just take a little bit of white paint. I like to take a lot of paint on like the tip of my brush here. And one way you could do a flower is just first of all make a little dot in the middle. Just a little dot for a guide. And usually, especially the way I like to teach kids, is you make lines, pretty much like a star. There's usually about maybe like 5 petals. But remember, every flower is different, okay? So now you got this little figure that, just you can add a head if you want to play around and do stick figures. But after you do these lines, then you're going to do parentheses around them. Okay? And fill them in. Parentheses around the lines. And fill them in. And if you want, you can always add, smaller petals in between. If you really want a nice full flower. Okay, and that's all there is to it with that. I would say that's the easiest way. Another way is just to make parentheses and fill them in as you go around. Just like that. Make parentheses and fill them in. They're like little footballs. If you want something with rounder petals, then again, you can make a dot in the middle and you just make circles. Just kind of twirl your brush around. This is similar to the style that we're going to use. But this only has, this has 5 petals, but you could do some that have 4. What we're going to be doing is this. We're just going to make swirls like this. Really abstract, so every one of them is going to look different. And then if you want to do the middle of your flower, I like to use the handle of the brush, and you could just put a little dot in the middle. See? Then you don't have to worry about getting a really small circle in the center of your flower. Okay, and make sure you wipe off the handle of your brush. Don't want to get paint on yourself. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my bag. Let's see, I'm going to wipe this up for a second. I don't get paint on the other side of my bag. Okay, but your tablecloth is a great way to practice. Now going back to my bag, I'm going to use white at first to do a white base for whatever I want to paint. I'm going to use my inspiration as a guide to see where I'm going to put my flowers. So I'm going to do this big guy over here on this part of my O. Okay. And if it helps, make the circles first. Kind of get an idea of where you want them. And fill them in white. Now as you can see, mine's looking a little streaky. I probably should have waited a few more minutes for it to dry. So after I do this, I'm going to take a little break and come back. Because I am going to use pink and kind of don't want my blue to show through. Okay. So I'm going to put a flower right below that. And again, you don't have to follow me. This is where you really bring your project to life. Really make it your own. You can make these flowers smaller, although I do find it is harder to make it smaller. Okay. That's a nice big one. See, again, I'm just making circles. And these blooms have 4. Let's see, I'll make a little guy over here. Little baby flower. I'm going to put one more right here in this empty spot. Maybe I'll make a more of a point instead of an abstract flower. Now as you can see I have a little bit of blue on my brush. That means the paint wasn't dry all the way. So I'll either put one more coat of white on here or wait for it to dry completely. And when I say completely, I say, wait a good hour. These paints do take about 15 to 20 minutes to dry, but it may still be tacky depending on how thick you put the paint on for your letter over here. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for this to dry, and we're going to come back and add our leaves and the color to our flowers. Okay, now that I have my white flowers on here, and it is still a little tacky, but that's okay for me. Now, you can make these flowers any color that you want. If you notice, I did have some red paint, and I did mix it into some white, and this is more of a rosy pink. If you're going for that, then do that. Now, just keep in mind that a little bit of red goes a long way. So if you want this rosy pink, literally just take the tip of your brush with this much red. I know I squirted a lot more red than I needed, and then just mix it in and you'll get this rosy pink. Otherwise, in your kit, you have more of a hot pink, and that's what I'm going to use for this next step. So I'll just wipe off my brush here. Then you rinse it out too. Okay. And with the hot pink, I'm now going to paint on top of my white, going in the same strokes as what you see, as what you did with your white. Now the cool thing about this is you do maybe want a little bit of the white showing through. We're just now defining where the petals are. Just fill them in. And go a little bit on the outside. You may even want to come back later and add another coat of this. But as you can see, the white really makes it pop. Having that base of white. And you do my other flowers. And as you can see, I'm not going in circles. I'm following the shape of a petal. I'm doing that parenthesis shape, or a half moon, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint the rest of these petals. Now that I have the pink on my flowers, you could leave it like this. You can even go back and add some white back into the petals. If you look closely at your inspiration sheet, you'll notice there's some streaks of white, and you could go back and do that, but I am actually happy with the way this came out here. Also throughout the O, you can also add, a couple of pink dots here and there, as if they're falling blossoms. You can even do that last, but while I have the pink on my brush, I'm just doing it now. And for the last step of this, see, we're almost there, guys. And this certainly doesn't have to be the last step of your painting. We're going to do the leaves of our flowers now. The last color that you should have to work with is green. I'm actually going to take a bit of white and mix it with some white to make it a little bit lighter. Looks like I got some pink in there. That's all right. That'll look cool. See, happy mistakes. All right. Yeah, it's a nice light lime green. You can make this as dark or as light as you want. Yeah, it's really pretty. This green is actually one of my favorite colors. I love how vibrant it is. And when you put it with the pink, it just really, really looks nice. It's a nice color combination. All right, I'm happy with this. So taking your green to make the leaves of your flowers, from the base of the flower, you're just gonna go ahead and make a parentheses, just like this. I'm gonna move this a little closer so you can see. Okay, I did the parentheses, and now I'm just filling it in, just like that. Put this in the lower corner here so you can see better. You could do as many leaves as you want. I'm going to follow the sample. So I see there's another leaf. Let's see, right out here. Fill that in. And again, you'll see I have a lot of paint on my brush. Make sure you do have a lot of paint, but just use like the very tip of your brush. You can always wipe it on your palette, so wipe the excess off. But I find you get really nice clean lines when you use a lot of paint. Okay, it's not much room for flowers for this one, so I'm just gonna make one here. And again, you don't have to do it exactly like the sample. Do it how you feel yours flows. the best and what fills the space the best. Put one here. Maybe we'll go this way. Okay. And we'll do a little leaf for this one. And one on this side. Okay. Now this completes my bag. A couple of tips if you want to add some final touches to this. You could, add centers to your flowers. I'll just do that real quick. I'll do white paint, but I'm using my handle, the handle of my brush. I'm just gonna dot the center. See? Don't have to worry about making a circle. You don't have to worry about if the paint is dry or not. So a little dot in the center. You can use the green if you wanted to. Okay. All right. Another option, if you like this, but you're like, I think I just want to add a few more details, go ahead and add maybe some dots around. You could even do some flowers. I wouldn't suggest anything too bold though, because this is your main piece and you really want that to stand out. And of course, make sure when you're done, always keep your brushes in the water in between. You don't want the paint to dry on your brushes, but go ahead and swish this around, clean your brushes off really good, and put them on either a paper towel or a drying rack when you're finished. This way your brushes stay good and you can use them for the next box that you want to do. So I would allow this to dry for 24 hours. Be careful with this around water. It's okay if you get stuck in the rain and all, but don't put this in the washing machine. Only spot clean it only. And definitely have fun with this. I love carrying my bags around. It's great. They're great conversation starters. Everyone loves seeing what I created, and I really hope you had a ton of fun today. Go ahead and celebrate, have a cupcake, have one for me too, and hope to see you in another video. Enjoy!